Call us today at 505-345-1991.
Informed and involved. K245CD and AM 730 KDAZ Albuquerque.
Coffee and Conversation, where you get your information, whether local, regional, or international. Coffee and Conversation, Coffee and Conversation, Coffee and Conversation.
And welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. For you today, Monday, 11th of March. We're heading towards spring. When is the first day of spring?
I can look. I'm not sure.
Would you?
Yeah.
A few days away?
It's about 5 or 6, I think. Let's see.
All right. I should have asked you that during the break. Oh, well.
Oh, we can do it here on the radio. June? No. March 20th.
Oh, okay. So we're still a few days away.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. It's Monday, March 11th. As we head towards spring, we're going to have a real off week in terms of weather. Do you know it's spring break for APS?
Yeah, so watch out for traffic.
Yeah, a lot of
The
traffic.
roads will be full.
But the weather is going to be kind of wacky. We're going to have some rain showers today, possibly. Like a 50-50 chance of rain. Then that's going to hang around for a couple days. Then the wind is going to nail us on Wednesday. And then maybe some rain and snow on Thursday. It's going to be a real
Boy, the
odd
wind last week, I couldn't believe it, man. You know how people covered their swamp coolers with a canvas thing or whatever?
Right.
Man, there were pieces of that all over my neighborhood. You know,
time for a new cover.
Flat,
Yeah.
you know.
No kidding. So yeah, that's coming up, and we have St. Patrick's Day this coming Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody will be Irish. My favorite story. Remember Casey Luna before dealer got in Belen?
Right.
I knew Casey for many, many years. I think they're retired down there now and out of the business. I love that guy, and because we did a lot together when we were at the other radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey used to tell me around St. Patrick's Day, he says, "Oh, well, you know, everybody's Irish." He says, "I'm an Adobe Irishman."
Adobe Irishman.
I've never forgotten that.
I'm an Adobe Irishman. Oh, we ought to get
Funny
him
guy.
on the program.
I wonder how we can find him.
Yeah.
He and Beverly, lovely people, and I always love those guys. But yeah, he would tell me that every year, and then you know, he'd have that big smile on his face. Funny, an Adobe Irishman. Here's a little trivia question for you today. This is kind of fun. It's estimated you can save up to $100 a year on your water bill if you stop doing what? And I'll give you a multiple choice.
Oh, all right.
Okay?
Stop doing what?
Stop doing what?
All right.
A, rinsing dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. B, overwatering your houseplants. C, singing in the shower. Or D, filling your dog's water dish to the top.
Singing in the shower.
Bingo.
Really?
If you'd stop singing in there, you'd save a lot of water and money.
All right, I'll stop it.
I'll confess right now, I don't sing in the shower, but boy, you know what? My brain, something about the warm water washing over you makes my brain really operate. I get the best ideas in the shower.
In the shower?
I do. I don't know what it is, but I get
Well, that hot water causes the blood to rush and your brain gets...
That probably is it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had some great ideas that happened in the shower. Some very interesting things that I do in my life have happened because I thought of it in the shower.
But you're not singing. Thank you very much.
No, I don't sing in the shower.
I don't either.
Yeah. And now that I'm doing this morning show again, if I did that, I'd wake up my wife. She would not like that.
No, that's right.
She would not like that. All right, lots coming on the program this hour. I love this business. We're going to talk to Steve Hutching, who is the owner of Rangewood Reclaimers. They are in the business of reclaiming old wood from houses, barns, you name it.
Ask him if he has any old barn doors.
We'll find out.
I'd like to have a barn door.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, remember when we were at Brand X?
Yeah.
And one morning we were talking about teenagers being on the telephone all the time, and I said, oh my gosh, I wish I had a phone booth. And the ladies from Pioneers, the retired phone operators, called me the next day and said, there's a phone booth down here. If you'll get down today, you can have it. So it's sitting in my living room.
You have a phone booth.
Yeah.
I love
and
it.
it used to be hooked up, but now that I don't have a landline, of course it's not.
It's just decoration.
Yeah.
now.
People come in and go, what is that?
Yeah, especially those millennials, right?
Yeah.
They go,
Yeah.
what's that about?
Let's not pick on millennials. I'll get in trouble again.
Okay, better
But
not.
I do have an anti-theft device on my car.
What is it?
It's a 5-speed stick transmission.
Anti...
Millennial theft, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that cartoon. That's pretty funny. Frank's going to do some news here in a second, and then we're going to continue on the show. The state legislature is going to wrap up this week, and those little devils up there are sneaking around at night trying to get some more money from you. We'll tell you about that and a few other things here on the show. It's Coffee and Conversation here for Monday, March 11th with Frank and Larry, and we'll be right back.
Britain now has become so hostile to evangelical Christianity.
God's truth meets resistance around the world.
When we go into other countries with the gospel, there are challenges.
Join Franklin Graham in Europe, Mexico, and Asia as he shares the hope of Christ.
All of us have a vacuum that only God can fill himself.
Desperate times call for something bold.
Watch the Billy Graham special right here on Sun Broadcasting.
Tap into the pulse of all things good with Stellar Sunday, an inside scoop on inspirational artists, movies, books, and so much more. From the spotlight interview with the biggest names in gospel music to our on-the-road look and what's happening in showbiz. Stellar Sunday, your weekly source of motivation and artist reflections. Join us each week for entertainment news with an inspirational twist on Stellar Sunday.
Sundays, 11:30 a.m. here on KCHF TV 11.
State ECU brings you Kasasa. What's Kasasa? It's an easy way to earn up to 39 times more interest on your money that just might make you want to dance. ATM refunds, no monthly fees, outstanding local service, and way more interest than those mega banks. What are you waiting for? Switch to free Kasasa checking at State Employees Credit Union.
Every single day I get up as a writer, I look at that blank piece of paper, and for 1 second it scares me, but I just trust myself and it all works out. I started not knowing how to read and write. It's hard to start, but once I start, there's no holding me back. I change the world and the world changes me. You want to improve your reading skills? Call the New Mexico Coalition for Literacy now. Call 1-800-233-7587. Call today.
News you need to know now with Frank Haley in the AM 730 newsroom and on FM 96.9.
Hello, New Mexico, and good day to all our listeners and viewers in Bernalillo on this Monday morning, March 11th. Look for a high today of about 62, 50-50 chance for rain today. Well, hoping that you weren't paying attention Friday night is a continued strategy of House Democrats as they work to pass the largest tax increase in state history. House Bill 6 would force New Mexico families to pay well over $500 million in increased taxes despite a surplus in the state budget. HB 6 introduced the first full day of the session and initially included an increase in the tax on gasoline, yet House Democrats have held that bill behind closed doors. It went through 9 different changes. Representative Jim Townsend, a Republican from Artesia, says this is the biggest cash grab in the history of our state, and New Mexico's working families are getting stuck with the bill. HB 6 raises taxes in several areas, including an increase on personal income taxes, that'll be worth $200 million. An increase in local taxes worth $200 million. An increase in vehicle registration fees, that'll raise $37 million. An increase in the cost of buying a vehicle, that'll raise $65 million. Increased taxes on hospital services would raise about $100 million, and they'll raise taxes on cigarettes and tobacco products. That'll collect a measly $23 million. A proposal to legalize the sale and consumption of recreational marijuana through the state-run stores here is advancing in the state legislature. A Senate panel Saturday endorsed the House-approved bill that would allow possession of up to an ounce of marijuana for recreational use by people 21 or over, while applying taxes of up to 17% on the retail sales. Bill supporters include defense attorneys and the ACLU. Business associations and medical marijuana businesses are worried about state involvement in sales and a potential plunge in marijuana prices. A southern New Mexico county is siding with the president when it comes to the declaration of a national emergency along the southern border. Friday, Luna County commissioners unanimously passed a resolution supporting the president's declaration of a national emergency along the border. Several people have been cited for starting a fire at Bottom Lake State Park Saturday. That fire spread 3 to 5 acres, which is about 15 miles southeast of Roswell. The fire broke out after hot charcoal from a grill was dumped on the grass. The identities and exact number of people arrested not released. Now from the KDAZ Good News File, the fracking boom is gaining speed in the Permian Basin of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. ExxonMobil and Chevron are primed to sharply boost their oil production in the next few years. ExxonMobil says that as soon as 2024, it expects to produce the equivalent of more than 1 million barrels of oil per day. Techniques such as hydraulic fracking and horizontal drilling have allowed companies to pump more oil and natural gas and at lower costs. In fact, Exxon says its Permian output could generate 10% return even if crude oil prices drops to $35 a barrel. That's the news. Remember, Jesus loves you and wants to be your Savior. Seek the Lord today while he may be found. Have a blessed day. I'm Frank Haley, CJF.
All right, thank you, Frank. And we're rolling today for our Coffee and Conversation program for Monday, the 11th of March. I'm Larry Aarons, and we have a wonderful guest in studio today. I'm glad you're here, Steve. Steve Huchting is here. He is owner of Rangewood Reclaimers, and you're all about the old wood, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Well, good to meet you.
Well, thank you for having me.
There's a business in everything these days, and you might describe how you came into the business of restoring and reselling old reclaimed wood.
I'd be glad to.
Yeah. How did you get going in this?
Well, I was a media consultant and transferred down to New Mexico. I loved New Mexico's history and culture and the people. I just fell in love with the state. I had clients in almost in every town throughout the state, and in my travels to go to those locations, I would see these old buildings. It could be anything from an old grain house to an old hay barn, corrals, an old adobe, and a lot of them I just would ask myself, what's happening to the stories behind those old buildings?
Yeah.
What about the history?
Yeah.
And I really started thinking about, well, how could that be preserved for New Mexico? How could we create something that could keep those types of buildings and the treasures and the salvage that we could reclaim out of that, out of our landfills?
So when you saw a crumbling, tumbling down building, you saw opportunity, not an old building.
Correct.
Yeah, that's neat. You know, as you go on the road all over the state on these ranches and things, there's sheds and outbuildings and stuff like that that are they're abandoned, basically.
Yes. A lot of times we've worked with small towns that have had issues with these old buildings that became a safety hazard. They're used by people for use that the towns don't want that to happen. So a lot of times we do goodwill. We'll go into the towns. We'll talk about how we can help reclaim some of that old history as well as help the community.
So you actually go in and do the dismantling or the demolition of these old things, right?
Well, I'd like, that's a very good point, and I'd like to separate the difference between dismantling and demolition.
Yeah.
With dismantling, when we go in and we commit to a building, we are actually removing the salvage and the reclaimed wood from that building one piece at a time. Whereas demolition would be much easier. It usually takes place, the building's knocked down, the foundation's torn up, and then that's what ends up in our landfills.
Yeah, the bulldozer comes in, they just scoop it up in a truck and haul it away.
Correct.
Yeah, you're more careful than that when you go in and...
Yes, much more.
Yeah.
We take the wood down, we prep the wood, we inspect it for any insects, any damage. That wood is separated, it's trimmed, the nails are pulled out on site. And basically, we pride ourselves in the fact that when we're done, we leave such a minimal footprint, you can barely see that we were even on site.
No kidding. What a fun business.
Well,
it really is.
If you're talking about the nature in the buildings, when you're in a 100-year-old building, you have several challenges.
Yes.
You'll have ravens, you'll have owls, you'll have wasps, you'll have bees, you'll have
mice,
exactly,
black widows, everything.
And we work with several of the entities that the bat rescue, owl rescues. We have the capabilities of rescuing and relocating most of the animals that we'll find in these old buildings. We're very eco-conscious, and conscientious about that. And so when we do go in, I haven't met a rancher that's asked me to relocate anything that rattled to date, but outside
it's going to
of
happen
that,
eventually.
we do have the capabilities. We carry snake tongs, snake chaps, buckets that are designed to transport these animals to another location. So we're very sensitive about that.
Neat. Our guest is Steve Huchting, owner of Rangewood Reclaimers. How long you been in the biz now?
Well, we wrote the business plan back in 2010. Our focus was primarily with the New Mexico film industry, and we supplied them circa wood, period wood for the movie sets. So that was our primary focus. Last August, we've opened up the warehouse to basically everybody, all the professional trades, architects, remodelers, contractors, interior designers, and then even to the homeowners and the hobbyists and artisans.
I think Frank asked you if you had an old barn door. But what do you have in there? What can people come and find?
They can find most of New Mexico's old treasures. We have not only architectural salvage, but there's decade-old wood, old-growth wood, which is the difference between old growth and the wood that we have now, is old-growth wood is extremely dense. It's already been cured. It's not going to twist. It's not going to be susceptible to many things that are being harvested now. These forests are now designed to have a quick turn, so it's much more susceptible to rot, dense, and it's not as dense. So to answer your question, we have doors in the warehouse that are over 100 years old, windows, we have beams for mantles, we have old 40-year-old fencing. I always like to say that I'm the, there's nothing in our warehouse under the age of 50, and I'd love to include myself in that, but I can't, so.
Steve Huchting is with us today. The business is called Rangewood Reclaimers, and they're in the business of reclaiming old wood, and you can now go to their, where is your warehouse?
Our warehouse is up off of I-40 heading east. We're in the Carnuel Valley.
Yeah.
And we have a warehouse up there. We set appointments on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays to come in for viewing. We have all the things that you'd want in terms of remodeling your home, your business. We love to hear people's, each piece of wood that we have in the warehouse has history and stories that follow it. And we have all the documentations that we can share with our customers and our clients.
Can you give me a couple of examples of reclaim projects that you've done that were really interesting?
Of course. We were asked, we give out wanted posters. We put those up in places such as Tractor Supply, REI, places where contractors will congregate. We put these up in the post offices and such. And we got a call from our wanted poster from a family in Placitas, and they had an old redwood water tank that had supplied the family for well over 45 years.
Wow.
It was at the top of a mountain, and our company is set up to do very difficult takedowns. So logistically, it was at the top of the mountain. We had to repair the road. We had to use we could not use a full-size truck or a mid-size vehicle or our 30-foot trailers. We had to scale everything down to get up that road.
Wow.
And when we got up to the top, we took down the redwood water tank, and the owner had said that her husband had put a finial at the top of the water tank. She'd asked if we found it, could we please let her know? Well, she's in her 90s. I'm not sure exactly, but she was in her 90s. She hiked all the way up the mountain to bring us water one day, and we actually had found the finial, and we presented it to her, and the family took a vote on which family member would get it, and now it's being passed down to the next generation.
What a great story. What a great story. Now, so like you said, the way you started this business, you'd be driving along and you'd see an old building that was kind of run down, wood and everything. How do you go find who owns that?
Well,
to get access to it.
Well, that's a great question, Larry. We do a lot of research. We do have scouts that travel the state and let us know about some buildings. They will reach out to the owners and try to locate the owners if they're
typically
on
a ranch or someplace like that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it could be private property. It could be something that has been in the family for many years and it's just in disrepair. Some of the records are lost, so we have to find a point of where we're connecting the dots to get a hold of that person. But usually people will reach out to us, let us know what they have. We ask them to send us pictures, and if it has stories and history and we can reclaim the past and bring it into the future, that's what we go for.
That's wonderful. Now, it's not just wood, too. I see you do windows, you have roofing, like tin roofs and things like that.
We have tin, galvanized. We have sheet metal from a 1912 grain house that came out of Roy, New Mexico.
Wow.
We took down the oldest sheep shearing program that existed in New Mexico, which is on the Wagon Mound Ranch. We were contacted by them and asked if we would consider taking the building down. It is more of a cattle ranch now, and the building became an unsafe structure for them.
In my mind's eye, I'm picturing some of these mining operations that you see someplace with all the wood pilings and things like that. That would be a prime candidate for you.
Yes, correct.
Stuff like that.
We love the beams. There's a lot of different woods here in New Mexico, but primarily it was longleaf pine, Douglas fir. We love to see the history of the old, what I call cowboy construction.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to us, and we are so grateful to actually be a part of it, to see and appreciate how these buildings were put together.
Yeah. You have to know a little bit about the construction biz, too.
Yes.
Because you have to take it apart, you have to know how it was put together.
Correct.
How many people work for you?
Well, it depends on the projects. We have projects, some will take us into South Dakota. We have a 7-story grain house that we're considering. We have 1800s barn in Roswell. We have an old fort on the backside of the Val Calderas that was put together by several hippies who were trying to stay away from the law. So there's really some amazing stories and some amazing people behind those stories.
What a cool business.
So
it really is. I love the whole story behind it. You have a saying here that you shared with me. It says, "Old styles fade, old treasures dull, old values disappear, but old wood is cherished forever."
Yes.
And you're finding wood that you really can't go out and buy anymore, right?
No.
You can't go to a lumber yard and find some of this stuff.
No, you cannot. There's a difference between wood that is made to look old and the actual real wood. So we provide that history. You're not going to get the stories. You're not going to get the patinas and the look that has taken decades to get when you're going to the lumber yards. And the old woods aren't as expensive as people think. We're very competitive in terms of what you would pay. And so it's a misnomer in some cases. So we always encourage people, please give us a call and find out, what we have to offer, and we'll work with them.
How nice. I love this whole idea. Well, very good. Steve, this is one of the more unique businesses that I can think of, and it's really cool that you're doing this, and I think it's a good way to do a few things: preserve history, keep old wood out of the landfill, and create some great stories.
Yes, and adventures as well. We are very grateful to all of our customers, to our employees, who we call the Rangewood Posse. Those guys are just phenomenal with the knowledge they share and the love and the passion that goes into taking down these old buildings. And we're just grateful for the adventure, for the people that we've met and the people we will meet, and those adventures that we've had and those adventures that we will have.
Unbelievable. What a great time. Steve Huchting, owner of Rangewood Reclaimers, here on Coffee and Conversation. We invite you back anytime.
Thank you, Larry. I look forward to it.
Great to meet you. All right, that's a wonderful guest for us today. I'm Larry Ahrens, along with Frank Haley, here on Coffee and Conversation, and we'll be back with more in just a moment.
This is the principle that guides Army National Guard soldiers to be ready whenever disaster strikes. They have a stake in the well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times. Selfless service. It's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
I did my research when I bought my new Volvo and knew what a great vehicle I was getting. What I did not realize was what a great experience I was going to receive at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo. Eddie Corley tells me it's their "yes, we can" attitude, and I believe it. With their VIP service, complimentary loaners, and lifetime coverages, they make you feel like you're part of the family. See for yourself at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo.
Corley's Albuquerque Volvo at the Alameda exit off I-25, or visit Corley'sAlbuquerqueVolvo.com.
We'll be ready to hear it. What peace process you are talking about? As they hear.
35 years and we're getting nowhere. They're evil. That's all they are, evil.
Feel it.
It's all because of your politics.
As they feel.
We have to stop murdering each other.
See it. As it is.
As long as this problem is not solved, more suffering will happen.
Maya Margit for the Media Line.
Charles Biblazaire for the Media Line.
The Media Line.
This is Felice Friedson reporting for the Media Line.
Changes the way you see news. Visit us at themedialine.org.
News you need to know now with Frank Haley in the AM 730 newsroom and on FM 96.9.
Hello, New Mexico, and good day to all our viewers and listeners in Bernalillo on this Monday, March 11th. Look for a high today of about 62. We have a 50-50 chance for rain throughout the day. Hoping that you weren't paying attention on Friday night is the continued strategy of House Democrats as they work to pass the largest tax increase in state history. House Bill 6 would force New Mexico families to pay well over $500 million in increased taxes despite a surplus in the state budget. Representative Jim Townsend, a Republican from Artesia, says this is the biggest cash grab in the history of our state, and New Mexico's working families are getting stuck with the bill. He says, we have a budget surplus and don't need to pick the pockets of working families. Yet that's exactly what this bill will do. The proposal to legalize the sale and consumption of recreational marijuana through state-run stores in New Mexico is advancing in the Mary Roundhouse. A Senate panel Saturday endorsed the House-approved bill that would allow possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana for recreational use by adults while applying taxes of up to 17% on the retail sales. A southern New Mexico county is siding with the president when it comes to the declaration of a national emergency at the southern border. Friday, Luna County commissioners unanimously passed a resolution supporting the president's declaration of a national emergency on the southern U.S. border. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says there is no national emergency on the border. A Hidalgo County commissioner says his county will be voting on a similar resolution next week. Hidalgo County shares an 86-mile border with Mexico. That popular bill that would allow New Mexico to stay on daylight savings time year-round is stuck in the House. It's been in the State Government, Elections, and Indian Affairs Committee after being passed in the Senate February 21st, 3 weeks ago. The bill probably won't go anywhere now. U.S. Air Force Secretary and former Congresswoman from New Mexico, Heather Wilson, has been named the next president of the University of Texas at El Paso. The Ironworks fire in Valencia County burned 139 acres. Full containment is expected later this week. 2 homes totally destroyed, several outbuildings, and 6 recreational vehicles were also burned. Now from the KDAZ Good News File, the fracking boom is gaining speed in the Permian Basin of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. ExxonMobil and Chevron are primed to sharply boost their oil production in the next few years. Don't give up before the miracle. Keep the faith, keep praying. Jesus is in control and will never leave you. Have a blessed day. I'm Frank Haley, CJF.
Back with you here on Coffee and Conversation for Monday morning. Thank you for spending some time with us today here on our radio and TV program. We're Coffee and Conversation with Frank and Larry every weekday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. And here's kind of how it works. The first hour of our show is live on KCHF TV, Channel 11, and, of course, KDAZ, AM and FM. Then in the second hour, which we're in now, if you're seeing us at 4 in the afternoon, it was our morning show earlier in the day. We replay our second hour at 4 p.m. every afternoon. We did that because Frank Haley said, I want to watch myself on TV. So we finally gave up and said, okay, Frank, we'll do this for you.
Let me tell you, it's pretty scary to see yourself. Oh, man.
I watched it a couple days last week, and then I said, I've done that show already.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you record your voice and then play it back, you think, oh,
well, yeah,
I don't like the way I sound.
But you and I are used to that now.
I'm used to it, but you can record any of your friends and then play it to them, and they're shocked at how they sound because the sound is different than in your own head. And it's different seeing myself on TV. I don't like it.
Well, then you don't have to watch.
I'm not watching anymore.
Oh, you will. Come on. You will.
And movie actors are that way too. A lot of them don't watch their movies.
I see celebrity interviews all the time, and people, they don't like seeing themselves on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand that, actually.
Yeah, it's just because we're not used to seeing that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Boy, you see what's going on in Colorado, the bill that they have up there it's the I forget the title of that. Anyway, what they want to do in the state of Colorado, our neighbors to the north, the legislature is trying to pass a bill, and this is stupid. I don't know why they're doing it. They're acting like New Mexico. It's whoever wins the national popular vote in the presidential election is where their electoral votes will go. So let's use the last election. So probably Hillary Clinton won that state. I don't remember.
I don't either.
But she also won the so-called popular vote.
That was all the New York vote.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah.
So whoever won the national popular vote, more votes than the other candidate, then those electoral votes in the Electoral College would go to that candidate. You talk about giving away your power.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Electoral College levels the playing field.
Sure does.
So Rhode Island has the same amount of electoral clout as other states do. At least they have a say.
Yeah.
Here in New Mexico, we're at 5 electoral votes. No big deal. But it is if it's a tight race. The popular vote, if you wanted to go elect a president via popular vote, then all the big states have the advantage. Then you just have candidates from places like California and New York and maybe Illinois, Chicago, and they would just try and get as many votes as they can, and they would always win. It's like Tom Brady and the Patriots always being in the Super Bowl all the time. You get tired of the same people from the same places.
All the time.
All the time. You'd always have a presidential candidate from New York or from San Francisco or from L.A. or from Chicago because it's all about getting the most votes. When you have an electoral college system, it's the genius of the system that the Founding Fathers set up that wouldn't allow one geographic area to dominate just because they had more people.
Well, I mean, that's the democratic way, but we're not a democracy. We are a republic.
We are. So they have a bill in Colorado that is, I still haven't found the name of it. Doesn't matter.
No.
I just described to you what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it seems to have wide support. I don't know why people in Colorado want to give it away like that. They think they're doing something hip and trendy, and they're not.
It's because we have used the word democracy for so long now. People think we are a democracy, and we're not. And the Founding Fathers were smart men.
The Electoral College idea was one of genius, in my opinion. And it's just kind of weird to see what's...
I mean, there's even a movement to do away with the Electoral College.
Oh, yeah. Elect president on popular vote. That's a real bad idea.
Sure is.
It's a real bad idea. The current system is a pretty good one. I don't like if I had to fix something in the whole election apparatus, I'd fix the primary system. I think it's kind of, I don't know.
Well, and I think we need photo IDs to vote.
Oh,
I mean,
felt that way for a long time.
I have to use a photo ID if I want to buy a house or get a loan. Used to, when I'd go to Blockbuster and get rent a tape, I had to show them an ID.
Yeah.
But not to vote. Oh, no. That
you wanted to buy a bottle of wine or something.
Sure.
You know.
Get on the airplane.
To get on the airplane. Yeah, I mean, I've said for years on the other station, and I'll say it on this station, the only reason that people don't want you to present an ID is cheating.
That's right.
They want to be able to cheat. I remember I had a guy that called me all the time when I had the other morning show, and he would get on the air and brag. This guy, and he was a very interesting interview. I think his name was Jerome. I can, one of those callers that you can't forget. He said, "Hey, I own property in 4 different counties in New Mexico, and I vote in all of them." I said, "Jerome, you're negating my vote." He said, "Well, I don't see it that way. I have property, so I get to vote." So he's registered
in 3 counties.
3 or 4 counties, and he said, "I go vote 4 times." And I said, "Jerome, that's not the way it's supposed to work." He says, "I don't care.
So he's the guy that started the phrase "vote early and often."
That's the one. And there was nothing I could do to explain to him that he was effectively canceling out my vote and 3 other people.
Yeah.
Because he got to vote more than once. And there was no way of stopping him because they didn't require an ID. Hey, I'm Jerome Smith. I'm here to vote.
There, yeah.
So on election day, he'd get in the car and go to all the counties and vote. And
he thought that was okay.
Yeah, he was perfectly happy with it. Well, he had his people he wanted to get elected, and he was going to do what he could do. But yeah, illegal. But who could stop him? You didn't have to show an ID.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You'd think in our electronic age we could knock that out and prevent that from happening. But
You would think.
I guess not. And we don't do it because there are people that don't want to stop cheating. They, I think there's a lot of it that goes on here in this state. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
Because I love living here, but man, some of the stuff that goes on is just crazy. All right, let's pick up on a few other things today here on the program. Let's see, what do the other, we talked about the smartphone. I did that. Today is napping day. I got that note. The day is designed to let you catch up on that hour of sleep that you lost yesterday. I don't feel like I lost sleep, do you?
It used to bother me years ago, but in
Yeah.
the last few years, we just turn the clock back and get up and go on to work.
Let's do a timeout here, and we'll come back. Got a few other things I want to talk about today here on Coffee and Conversation, but let's do this. We'll come back in a second. You're listening to Coffee and Conversation here on KDAZ 96.9 FM and AM 730, and we appreciate you joining us here today on the program. We'll be right back.
State ECU brings you Kasasa. What's Kasasa? It's an easy way to earn up to 39 times more interest on your money that just might make you want to dance. ATM refunds, no monthly fees, outstanding local service, and way more interest than those mega banks. What are you waiting for? Switch to free Kasasa checking at State Employees Credit Union.
Hey everyone, Eric Stackelbeck here. I want you to join me in Washington, D.C. this July for the premier pro-Israel event in the United States. The 14th annual CUFI Washington Summit will be held on July 7th, 8th, and 9th at the D.C. Convention Center, and it will be our biggest and best yet. Thousands of pro-Israel Christians will join together and lift their voices in the nation's capital for Zion's sake. CUFI's founder and chairman, the one and only Pastor John Hagee, will be there. He'll be joined by the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, and many other very special guests. But most importantly, attending CUFI's Washington Summit gives you the chance to personally deliver a strong pro-Israel message to your members of Congress. We'll spend an entire day during the summit canvassing Capitol Hill and meeting face-to-face with elected officials to advocate for a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Again, the dates are July 7th, 8th, and 9th, right after the 4th of July holiday. So come to Washington, D.C., enjoy the fireworks on the 4th, and celebrate America's independence. Then, stick around for the CUFI Summit to celebrate the unbreakable U.S.-Israel alliance with America's largest pro-Israel organization. Vacation with a purpose this summer in Washington, D.C. Go to CUFI.org now to register for our 2019 Washington Summit for just $75 when you use the discount code WATCHMAN. I'll be in D.C. this summer, and I hope you'll be there too to raise your voice for Israel for such a time as this.
Back on Coffee and Conversation.
I've had my coffee. Let's have some conversation.
Yeah, I'm kind of coffeeed out right now, but I'm okay. Glad to have you with us today here on Coffee and Conversation on KDAZ 96.9 FM and AM 730. and we welcome you. A couple of things. I want to comment on the story that you had, Frank, about the House of Representatives in our fabulous state of New Mexico.
Yes.
Sneaking around on Friday night trying to get their tax package passed, right?
Yeah, when nobody's paying attention.
Right. It's common knowledge in the news business that if you have bad news and you're a government agency or something like that, notify the news media on Friday night, and nobody will hear about it.
It might make the weekend news, but nobody will be watching.
That's right. So if you have bad news, you're a corrupt politician and you got caught, reveal the info on a Friday night and you'll be fine because nobody's watching.
You can keep your job.
That's right. So they were tiptoeing around on Friday evening with their big tax package, which I hope the state Senate takes apart. I'm putting my faith in them doing that. Yeah, they better hurry. So how much taxes are they looking to raise here?
Oh, it's only $500 million.
Is that all?
That's all.
But they have $1 billion surplus.
I know. They would like more surplus.
I see.
And they want you to pay for it.
Yeah.
They're going to increase, or at least they want to increase, your personal income taxes by $200 million. They want to increase local taxes by $200 million. And if you're going to buy a car or register your car in the future, they want to charge more for that. They think they can raise $37 million on vehicle registration increases.
Okay.
And you want to buy a new car? You just bought a new car recently.
Yeah,
so
a year and a half ago.
Yeah. You want to do another one? They want to increase that by $65 million. Oh, and they want to increase the taxes on hospital services by $100 million.
What does that mean?
I do not know. I guess
hospitals are expensive now.
Yeah. I guess if you go into the ER and they do something, they're going to put a bigger tax on your bill when you check out of the hospital.
Okay.
And our Representative Jim Townsend, he's a Republican from Artesia, he says this is the biggest cash grab in the history of our state against working families, and they are being stuck with the bill. He says, we have a budget surplus. We don't need to pick the pockets of working families, but that's what they're trying to do. So,
well, there you go. Okay. Let's hope the Senate, if there was ever a time to contact your state senator, this would be that time. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And let them know what you think about it.
Well, I hope they'll answer the phone when you call.
Yeah, let's hope. Okay, I want to talk about a poll that's out that will raise your eyebrows. I just looked up what Generation Z is.
I've not heard of that generation.
I hadn't either. We have millennials, we have us, baby boomers, we have all the other, there's Generation X.
Yeah.
Well, Generation Z are young people that have been born between the mid-1990s to mid-2000s.
Okay.
So how old would you be? You'd be, 20, 23, 24.
Late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, right in there. So the Harris people, who do a lot of polling, ran a poll, and it showed that a large percentage of millennials and those young Gen Z kids would like to live in a socialist country.
Really?
They'd like the United States to be socialist.
Well, they could move to Cuba or Venezuela.
Well, they could do it tomorrow if they wanted to. The people at Harris said that as they talked to these millennials and Gen Z, they got the distinct impression that the word socialism does not carry the same stigma as it did in the past. Now that celebrity politicians are using the term openly and freely, people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. So young people's political views often change as they grow older, but their support for socialistic policies is a sign that the old rules of politics are changing. Gen Z and millennials, this will get your attention, are projected to make up 37% of the electorate by the 2020 election.
37%?
Yes. So let's see. They would 49% of Gen Z and millennials said, 49.6% said they would prefer living in a socialist country. 43% support abolishing ICE. 67% say the government should provide free college. Look at this one. 73% said the government should provide universal health care. 71% said higher earnings result in is a result of free enterprise. Well, you're not going to get that in socialism. And that the government should provide private insurance. 78% said that that should be done. Doesn't say how we're all going to pay for this.
Oh, yeah, right.
The top 3 voting issues for Generation Z, again, these are people born in the mid-1990s to the mid-2000s. The top 3 voting issues for that group, according to the Harris poll, are mass shootings, racial equality, and immigration policy and treatment of immigrants. Now, for millennials, the top issues are healthcare, global warming, and mass shootings.
Global warming. I mean, when I was growing up, global warming was 4 seasons.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'll do one more here, and then we'll take a quick time out. And then the Harris poll talked to Gen Xers. I think that'd be my kids. Their issues are healthcare, terrorism, national security, and the national debt. They're getting older and wiser.
Yeah. Well, the national debt is certainly serious.
It is. It is indeed. Interesting poll from Harris. We'll be back in a moment. More coffee and conversation right after this.
Learning to Love and Loving to Learn, a brand new book by Dr. Emily Schreiner, is a breakthrough study dealing with relationships in the immediate and extended family. Learning to Love and Loving to Learn touches on subjects like appropriate discipline, positive encouragement, helping children reach their full potential, and benefits and consequences of silent thought. This book opens the door for learning to be an exciting adventure as readers learn to love and thereby love to learn all that God has for them in every situation. Learning to Love and Loving to Learn by Dr. Emily Schreiner, now available at Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Amazon.com, and Google Play.
If you want to improve your reading skills, don't feel like you're alone. Thousands of us in northern New Mexico can't read or write. I used to be just like you. And today, I not only read and write, I write movies like Blood In, Blood Out. Call the New Mexico Coalition for Literacy today, please, at 1-800-233-7587. Get that tutor, learn how to read and write, and open up a whole new life for yourself. Paid for by the New Mexico Coalition for Literacy and aired in cooperation with this station.
I did my research when I bought my new Volvo and knew what a great vehicle I was getting. What I did not realize was what a great experience I was going to receive at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo. Eddie Corley tells me it's their yes we can attitude, and I believe it. With their VIP service, complimentary loaners, and lifetime coverages, they make you feel like you're part of the family. See for yourself at Corley's Albuquerque Volvo.
Corley's Albuquerque Volvo at the Alameda exit off I-25 or visit Corley'sAlbuquerqueVolvo.com.
So I was 16, I had blonde hair and braces, I was a baby, and I started hearing things that I didn't hear at home. You are beautiful, we love you. There was a seed that was planted in me that if you're naked and in the presence of a man, that you're gonna be affirmed, you're gonna feel accepted, and you're gonna get paid for it.
This former porn star is now a pastor's wife and an evangelist, reaching out to people in the adult film industry. Join Life Today this week on this channel.
Back on Coffee and Conversation today. Thanks for listening to us and watching us today here on the station. Appreciate it very much. I'm Larry Ahrens with Frank Haley, and let's help some folks, Frank.
Yeah, you know, we've had that fire in Valencia County. It's burned 139 acres, and about 50% contained, so there's still, but it's not threatening any homes now, although 2 homes were totally destroyed, some outbuildings, and 6 recreational vehicles. So there's some people down there that are helping collect items for the 2 families who lost their homes. Morgan Neslage began working to make sure that the families impacted by the fire could have resources they need. So her cake shop has turned into the Ironworks Fire Drop-Off Center. And they've collected all kinds of stuff, furniture, clothing. They still need some like kitchen utensils and that sort of thing, but people can take things by her business there in Valencia County and drop them off, and that would help.
And these families lost everything, didn't they?
Yeah, one family, Gary Nunn and his wife Jessica, they lived in the Rio communities, and they had a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. It was totally destroyed. The pictures I saw was just the foundations, all you could see. I mean, they don't know how that fire started, or at least they're not telling us yet. And still about 50% containment, so they're working on it.
I mean, it's still burning a little bit down there.
Some of it is. There's no buildings threatened now, and they've got some containment lines around it. But boy, the winds, that fire jumped the river,
Oh, man.
And so, I mean, the winds are just unbelievable when that fire started. And it's amazing they didn't lose more property and more homes than we did.
What's that thing called? The Iron
Ironworks, let's see.
You know how they name fires?
Ironworks Fire is what they call that one.
They name them after whatever's near where the origin of the fire is.
Yeah.
So, like, if there was a fire and it was near Frank Haley River, it would be the Frank Haley Fire.
Yeah, the Haley River Fire.
Whatever, yeah.
I know.
That's how they name them. It's who gets to do that?
I tell you what, the fire we had in the Manzanos 2 or 3 years ago?
Yes.
In near Chilili. Well, my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughters live out there, and they have about 5 acres in the forest, and they had to evacuate. Now, not just them, but at that time they had 5 horses, about 25 goats, a bunch of chickens, and other animals.
Goodness.
And so they started, he had to move all of those animals away. Of course, the fire did not damage their property, but it got close. The funny thing is, he had just gotten some new horses, and he only had a couple of them for just a few weeks, and he couldn't catch 2 of them when he's trying to get them in the trailers and get them released, and so he finally gave up and just left 2 horses in the pasture, but he left the gate open in case the fire came, they could get out.
Yeah.
Came back the next day, and the fire had gone in the other direction, but his horses were gone. He goes, oh me. So the fire service set up a website, so if you had lost something, you could put a notice on there, and he put pictures of them. About 3 days later, a lady called him and said, hey, I think I have your horses.
No kidding.
And he said, well, where are you? And she told him, and that was about 10 miles away from his home.
Well, those horses traveled.
Yeah, and he said, man, I couldn't catch them. How'd you catch my horses? And she said, oh, they were real thirsty. I just put water in the trough and opened the gate. They came right in my corral.
Great story. All's well that ends well. Speaking of ending, we're done.
Are we?
We're out of here.
All right.
We thank you for listening and watching our wonderful program today, Coffee and Conversation with Frank and Larry. We'll see you again here tomorrow morning. Thanks. We'll see you then.
Join us again for Coffee and Conversation with Frank and Larry. For comments and questions, email Larry at coffeeandconvonm.com. If you'd like to be a guest, call Kitty at 505-345-7373 or visit our website at coffeeandconvonm.com. You can write us today at Coffee and Conversation, P.O. Box 4338, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87196.
Just the word Sun Broadcasting makes me want to say, be still my heart. And then to hear that you are raising funds for a new studio and a new radio studio, it just causes me to just explode with joy because I've watched this ministry for years. I've been part of your ministry. And I know your integrity, and I know your passion. I know that you're true to the Word of God. And I know that what you're doing is absolutely vital. And I just want to urge all of you to support, to invest in this ministry, invest in these new buildings. It's a sign that they are growing. It's a sign that God is using them mightily. And you want to be part of that. That's what the body of Christ is all about. So pray and give generously.
Go to P.O. Box 4338, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87196. Call us today at 505-345-1991.